In Maxwell Hiatus SDNY Echo of Stroll v. Epstein with defense lawyer unlisted in Pacer, by Matthew Russell Lee, author on Patron Song Ruling BBC, Decrypt, Light Read, Radio, Podcast. SDNY Courthouse, December 13. During the break following the first week of the Maxwell trial, Kurt had gone out to Coney Island, to Seagate, to the origin of the crime or criminal of Jeffrey Epstein. If he were in the UK or Czech Republic, perhaps he would go on a different, Maxwell tour. But the Epstein story, before Palm Beach, New Mexico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands, before Saudi Arabia, Paris and Morocco, was pure New York, including, at first through arms dealers and later straight payoffs, the New York-based United Nations. After being placed as a fox in the chicken coop of and by Bill Barber at Dalton, in its now woke complex on 89th Street, and a stint at Bear Stearns later to be bought out with the Federal Reserve's help and no public comment by J.P. Morgan Chase, Epstein had set up in the Solo building on 66th Street in Manhattan. If only he had truly stayed solo, pleasuring himself rather than forcing girls to do so. Epstein was essentially a repo man, going after money, as well as stealing an investment for oil from Michael Stroll. Now Kurt at the SDNY courthouse dug into this first lawsuit against Epstein, Stroll v. Epstein, 92 CV 1021 before Judge Kenneth Conboy. It was for breach of contract and was filed on February 10, 1992, while Epstein moved for summary judgment on March 16, 1992. Now the docket and the SDNY did not list any lawyer representing him. Had his counsel withdrawn his name? Because a copy of Judge Conboy's pro-Epstein order, unlike the docket on Pacer, did list Epstein's lawyer, Elliot Silverman, Gold and Watchell, New York City, for defendant. With all the solemnity of the law, it went like this: Conboy, District Judge, we have before us an action for breach of contract. Plaintiff Michael R. Stroll seeks to recover from defendant Jeffrey Epstein money allegedly owed pursuant to a contract in which Stroll relinquished his interest in a joint venture. Epstein asserts that he executed the contract in a representative capacity, as an agent for the venture and as an officer of the Intercontinental Asset Group, IAG, and that, therefore, he is not personally liable under the contract. Pending before the court are two motions: 1. Defendant Epstein's motion to dismiss the complaint for failure to state a claim upon which relief can be granted, or, in the alternative, for summary judgment. Epstein's motion for summary judgment is granted, but Kurt would dig further. Beyond this dead case and another one by Hoffenberg, it was the arms dealers that caught Kurt's eye. Before being thrown out of the UN, he had reported on the UN bribery of the China Energy Fund Committee, which, as well as trying to buy the oil company of Gulbenkian Foundation, payments from which UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres omitted from his public financial disclosure, has offered the 30-year president or dictator of Chad weapons for an oil concession. That deal had began right in the UN General Assembly on 45th Street, when CEFC's Patrick Ho had waddled across First Avenue from the Trump International Tower to meet Sam Kutesa in the UNPGA's office, the same one now occupied by Abdullah Shahid of the Maldives. The UN had found ways to replace Epstein's money, Lapsang, for example, and CEFC and even Maxwell's Terramar, through Amir Docile, but the blood money had yet to flow as easy and greasily as it did under Epstein through IP. With the Gates Foundation and affiliates now partnership with Guterres' Melissa Fleming, she had a faux publicly funded podcast called Awake at Night, quite ironic for a supporter of pedophilia, through censorship. Adnan Khashoggi was not only a merchant of death and father of now-dead Jamal the op-ed writer, he was also a diplomat of sorts, working the Saudi-Israel beat, the irony if you could call it, that continued under Guterres, who smiling took a big check from Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman fresh off his killing of Jamal with a bone saw in the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. But Adnan was down with the UN, along with Douglas Leese, and the UN was down with Adnan. Now the UN was just down, doubling down on Epstein's child rape and going ever younger, in ever poorer countries, from West Palm Beach to the refugee hangars and the airport in Bangui in the Central African Republic. Both sought victims and then evaded the law. But while Epstein was finally arrested getting off his private jet in New Jersey in 2019, the UN and Guterres still thumbed their nose at the law. For how much longer? Maximum Maxwell. And so it continued. Click here for Patreon and more. 2D. Note: on October 29, 2021 and again on November 12, Ghislaine Maxwell and the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York filed a flurry of motions in limine, heavily redacted. The government argued that trial exhibits are not public and will be withheld. Inner City Press opposed and opposes the continued secrecy. Inner City Press will cover the trial, and all that comes before and after it. Court case cast and Song I, Song 2, Song 3, 5th Song and now November 27th Song. The underlying case is U.S. v. Maxwell, 20 CR 330, Nathan. To find out more, please follow the links on screen and in the description. Together, let's make sure justice is served.